Okay. So welcome to our 8th CityLit studio, Writers on Craft, Creativity, and Community, as part of Free Fall Baltimore. The studio is a unique opportunity for writers to experience lectures by 2 authors in different genres. The studio's illustrious roster of poets and writers include Morris Carlos Ruffin, Donna Hemmons, Rimika Bingham Risher, Susan Muadi Jaraj, David Yezi, Carmen Jimenez Smith, Danielle Evans, and Eugenia Kim, among others. This year, we're delighted to bring you a special 2-part offering of this studio with tonight's Zoom session called Illuminate, How Digital Storytelling Can Amplify and Shift Your Writing, with playwright, creative, and master of all things, Denise Kumani Gantt. The second part of the studio occurs 2 weeks from now in person at the Lyric. Part 2 includes a chance to work on your final piece with Denise and introduces National Book Award finalist Rio Cortez on Mining the Personal Archive, which is an exploration of how we can use family photographs, ephemera, like tickets, posters, or items that are usually meant for one-time use, and photographs to create unexpected poems. Usually for studio events, you'd find us around a large table in an informal but intense information-packed session on craft. But this year, we wanted to offer you something special, an opportunity to consider your work in a digital way. I'd like to ask you to take a few deep breaths. I need you to leave work at work and to leave home at home. Even if, like me, you're sitting at your kitchen table, about to engage with the artist before us today, who will teach us another way to do stories. Allow me to introduce our guest artist, Denise Kumani Gantt. Denise's plays and performances pieces include Meditations from the Ash, winner of the Artscape Best Play Contest, and voted Best New Play in the Baltimore Alternative and City Paper. She's the author of 3 Stories to the Ground, written with Gabrielle Shanks, and winner of the Theater Project Outstanding Vision in Theater Award. She's also the author of Anatomy Lessons, selected as part of Penumbra's Theater's Cornerstone Project in Minnesota. Wow, okay. Her play, The Gift, a brief history of everything we have ever known, received stage readings at Contemporary Theater in Seattle, the Drama League in New York, and Cape May Stage in New Jersey. In 2002, her poetry collection, Conjuring the Dead, received the Maryland Emerging Writers Award. She has attended numerous artist residencies, including Hedgebrook, McDowell Colony, and Sangam House in India, no less. Yeah. She is the Director of Education at Lyric Baltimore. She serves on the boards of Maryland Citizens for the Arts and the Leadership Council of CityLit Project. Denise facilitates digital story workshops with the Story Center and the Story Center in California. Oh, in Canada.
Canada.
But please give the warmest welcome, because we also have another special guest, but I'll let Denise introduce her. Please give the warmest welcome and your undivided attention to Denise Kumani Gantt. Take it away, Denise.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I am so glad you're here. I'm glad it's a intimate group. Love that. And so we are going to spend the next 2 hours focusing on digital storytelling and really getting you up to speed, at least for then the next 2 weeks. You'll be working on your stories, your images, your poems. We're going to find out what you're working on in a second. But we are very lucky. I'm very lucky to have Ronnie, it's Sanderson, right? Who is the Executive Director of Story Center Canada. Randy and I do a lot of workshops together. She also was my teacher and was the person who taught me digital storytelling. So if you want to just say a few words about yourself. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for inviting me to be here. I'm very excited to be here. And a little bit about myself. I have a film and video background originally, and then later I got a late in life Master's of Environmental Studies, where I concentrated on community engaged arts and found digital storytelling, which was the perfect marriage of wanting to use my creative and film side with more of social justice and community kind of work. And we're excited to be working with you today.
Great, thank you.
And I'm based in Toronto, and I love working with Denise. We do a lot of projects together, so.
Yeah, enjoyed that. Okay, so I am going to get the PowerPoint up and ready, and I am going to share this with you. Let me just get it down here. And of course, now I gotta go back. Yep,
Denise,
I told Carla, I said, yeah, I never figured out how to like get it up and get it running and all that, but here we go.
Denise, before you get started, let me just say this about the studio.
Okay.
The studio is a very informal gathering that we want you to fully engage and be the writer in this space, be the creative in this space. That means there will be times you can ask questions. I'm looking at the chat on a regular basis to see what things are coming up for you. But really, it's your chance to just kind of think about what you want to create and engage fully with some of the things Denise is saying, how to amplify your work. We create these environments so you can just do some really good work and thoughtful and meaningful work. And we're pleased to have these two artists with us today to just help us get there. But please, if this is an informal setting, we're not like about airs, we're just about getting this good work done. I just thought I should say that.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, thank you. And of course, I'm already encountering a technical difficulty. Of course, Ronnie, I'm hitting the, I have the PowerPoint up. I'm hitting the share sound, but it's not clicking now. You have any thoughts about why that might be happening?
No, do you want me to share the slides for you since I have them?
Why don't you? Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that'd be great.
That work?
That's
Okay.
even better.
Pull
Yep.
them up. Give me 2 seconds while you start doing things. Oh, I don't know if I'm in the right ones actually, because I don't see you in them. Do you want to send me the link?
Okay, hold on.
Mine, I think, are the previous version.
Bear with us.
Thank you for your patience. You want me to put it in the chat or just email you?
Either one.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat, easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just hope they work for me.
Yeah, I just couldn't get this. I mean, I couldn't get the
effectively.
sound up.
Hopefully I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I see what's going on here. I'm in the wrong.
Maybe the music messed us up, Denise.
Could have been.
Okay, I am ready.
Okay, great.
So share. You just tell me when you want me to advance slides and I will.
Okay, so you can go to the next slide.
In theory, there we go.
So let me tell you what we're going to do first. We would love to know who's in the room. That's always super important. So we would love for you to share your name, share a bit about what you write, what genres you work in, a few sentences about why you signed up for this workshop, and one quirky habit you have that you are willing to share with strangers. Just, we all have our things. Okay, and I cannot see people's names at the moment. So Ronnie, if you would call on somebody to
Sure.
Carla, yeah, if you
or Carla, do you want to start?
Oh no, I don't want to start, but let's call on Danielle.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, my name is Danielle Dupre. I am a screenwriter and a storyteller, I would say. I also act, but I thought it would be great to be able to write more of the stories that I wanted to see and act in. So I figured why not take a hold of that. I signed up for this workshop because I have so many ideas sometimes. It's hard for me to get them all organized. And sometimes life takes a hold of my creative spirit and doesn't let go to the point that I can't really write. And a very special, smart individual told me that if every creative person waited for that moment, then there would be nothing happening. Because if you wait for life to settle down, then you'll be waiting forever. So I'm trying to find that balance, but also be able to get all my ideas on a page without it being like a cluster and being overwhelmed by my ideas, but more so grounded in them and being able to like manifest them into more than just ideas. And one quirky habit that I'm willing to share with strangers, I don't know, it doesn't have anything to do with writing. I'm really scared of clowns, though, I guess, in the nature of Halloween. I am not a fan of clowns. I never understood why people like them. And yeah, that's
That's great.
my quirky
Thank
thing.
you, Danielle. Will you call on someone else?
Sure, I would love to. Um, I would call on Carla, but since she opted out, let's call on Lori.
Hi, I'm Laurie Rollins Anderson. I write poetry, essay, uh, blogging, and I do screenwriting. And I signed up for the workshop because I'm I don't really have a web presence for my writing at the moment. I got rid of my personal website a while back, and I just do social media. So one quirky habit is that I'm on my phone all the time, and I obsessively check for software updates many times a day, or app updates. I want to be updated. So
Great, thank you.
that's me.
Excellent. Laurie, will you call on someone else?
Sure. JCMC.
Thank you, Lori. Good evening, ladies. Um, good to be here with you this evening. I'm JCMC. Also, have a pen name of JC McCarthy. That's kind of like a transition from my former my born identity, if you will. I started out writing poetry when I was fairly young, and have always written journal entries, and over the past couple of years it's kind of transitioned into more long form like essays and kind of creative stories as well. And I'm taking this course because there's several reasons. I started a media company first with the idea of publishing and sharing my own work with the world. I have like notebooks and notebooks. Danielle, I identify with exactly what you're talking about, like just being able to kind of, focus and consolidate and put something out into the world from all of these ideas that have been, living in my head and living in my notebooks. So I started my media company to share that, but I realized I also had to make money to support that. So I kind of have been assisting other folks with getting their messages out there. And I just want to I really want to focus on getting something, starting to get out my volumes of work that's out there. And so I'm really appreciative for the opportunity. A quirky habit, I am there's nothing I love more than a clean kitchen counter. I have family that lives with me and visits and everything. And like, that's like my one like pet peeve. Like the kitchen counter, the granite like needs to shine. Like that's my only one I can think of right now. But so happy to be here with you. Thank
Okay,
you.
excellent. Call on someone, please.
Okay, can we come back to Carla?
Yeah, let's get Carla. Get her, get her.
I so identify with that kitchen counter, let me tell you. Okay, so I'm Carla Dupre, and I'd like to say Dupre. I write fiction. I started out a poet, and someone once told me, a very important someone, Lucille Clifton, said, once a poet, always a poet. So I keep that in mind. And but I write fiction. I'm working on a novel. It's called Where the Spirit Meets the Bone. And I always wanted to see what would happen if because it's based loosely on my family's story, but mostly about the relationship between my mother and my father, and how traveling through the South as a military family during the late 50s and early 60s, what that felt like as a family in this journey. So I wanted to see what it would be like to mix some of the excerpts with a visual kind of framework, because I see it very visually. And when Denise talked about doing a digital storytelling workshop, I said, wow, this could work. This could happen. And I want to participate, even though I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm excited about being here and seeing what shows up. And I wasn't trying to participate, but it's kind of hard not to participate in something that you really like. So I'm participating. My quirky habit, my daughter knows this, is I like to light candles. Like before meetings, I light candles and I'm always buying them. So I don't know if that's quirky, but I do it all the time. So I would like, can I pass it to Rainey?
Yep.
Hi, so I'm Rani Sanderson, and what do I write? Well, I'm actually writing a TV show, so that's what I've been writing recently. And I did not sign up for this workshop, but I would have, so I'm glad to be here and excited to work on this with everyone. And a quirky habit. I don't know if it's a habit. I collect snow globes and they're like all over the place, but I like have to constantly dust them because like it drives me crazy how dusty everything gets. So I guess like the kitchen counters, I think that was like sometimes it was the wrong thing to collect because they are so dusty all the time. But that's, I guess, what I would say for now. And I'll pass it to Denise.
Okay, so you know my name. I write a little bit of everything. I've written plays, I've written poetry, I've blogged, I write grants from the organization I work for. And I resonate with a lot of what people have said. I have always struggled a bit with writing and making a living. It is a constant dance for me, but I found that digital storytelling was a way to kind of be able to work on something in a very kind of condensed fashion. So, and quirky habit, let's see, the one quirky habit I have is that I always boil my water before I put it into my Brita pitcher. So I didn't have to worry as much as others about the water issues we're having right now in Baltimore. We're having water problems here. We have some kind of parasite in the water, Ronnie. So I've been doing that since I was a kid. I never take it straight from the spigot. All right, so thank you, everyone. I feel like we learned so much so quickly, and we are gonna speed through now because we wanna get as much information to you as possible. So could you go to the next slide? We're gonna skip this slide, but I want you to think about it. Why would you take a piece of written work and make a digital story about it? We were gonna talk about it, but we're already, I love your participation, but just think about that. Why, it's always important to think about the why, what, who, where. So why do you want to do it? I know for me, one of the things is I believe we're living in an area in an era where digital media is incredibly important. And it's a way of communicating to so many more people than books. And also, and we'll talk about this a bit, it has helped me, I think, become a better writer because of the editing process. Next slide. So you guys all address this, and part of the reason why I asked you to talk about a quirk is that, to use a cliche, but to really focus on a reality, there is no one like you. There's no one who sees the world like you see it, who moves in the way that you move, that writes in the way that you write. And so that is a foundation of the work that we do with the Story Center. And so owning your insight. And I kind of framed this, raise your hands, I can't see them, but others can keep track if you have come to the workshop with a piece of writing that you already want to work on. And it's okay if you haven't identified that either, but when we write, it's as we all know, we have insights about ourselves, about the story, about our characters. For those of you who have written plays, or even when you're writing fiction, often your characters will speak to you. They will share their thoughts and feelings with you, but you understand your work better than anyone else. This is not about critique. This is about understanding and insight. So that is the foundation of any story that you want to share. And connected to that, and one of the pieces for me that I have found really helpful in digital storytelling is owning your emotions around your own journey, around the journey of your writing, about what a piece means to you and to others. All of that is incredibly important, because what we're trying to do, and we'll talk about this a lot, is reaching a place of authenticity and also specificity. I think all of you are probably aware that the more specific you can be in a story, the more universal your story is. And so that's what we're going to work to help you look at and focus at. And we have identified, I think the next slide, a story? Yeah. We have identified a number of digital stories that we're going to share with you, and we will share them, and then we want to get your feedback about them. So this first piece is by poet and environmental, she writes essays too, poet and environmental activist Terry Tempest Williams. Let's just show it, and then let's talk about it on the other side. Okay.
Should I try and make it full screen? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, you should be able to once you,
Yeah.
You can just pop it up.
This tree, this puzzle piece bark, these limbs, these branches, these leaves, seeds thrown on the ground for birds. Sycamore. My grandparents' place, which was our place, which was home, right here, my roots and my reach. This tree is best seen from the kitchen window at the sink. My grandmother is at the sink, standing, doing dishes, dreaming.
Okay, so Ronnie, can you not share for a second? And let's just get a little feedback from everyone. As I say, I work with middle school students most of the time. And I always say there's no right or wrong, there's no response that's wrong. So we just want to hear what your insights were about this piece you saw, feedback, reaction to it. And I will call on people.
It was very calming. Yeah, it gave a very calming sense.
Very calming. Okay.
It
Danielle?
also adds a visual component to like a visual and audio component actually to like the words that you're saying. And I think that's also helpful for different types of I guess learners. You would say like kinesthetic, visual. Um it just gives you more elements to be able to reach people through.
I love the idea that when I think about washing dishes as a kid, it was always outside the kitchen window. There's always a time to daydream with your hands in water. And I love the idea that you heard water. So that component just made it all the more real and all the more made you more present in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I love about this story, is its simplicity, right? And it's simplicity on every level. It's a simple poem about a very specific moment, right? Which is one of the things we talk about in digital storytelling. You want to identify a moment. She only uses one picture. And that's also the beauty of digital storytelling, that we are able to manipulate how we see the image, what part of the image we see, how the image moves. But it's a very simple image. It's like a snapshot. And then finally, it's also the poet's voice. Very calming, as JCMC said, and just fits the tone of the writing, I think, eloquently. Any other feedback? Okay, so we're going to go to the next one by Magda, called Negra. And why you can't play the video? Well, we might not show
Give me
that
2
one.
seconds, I'll find it. Hang on, I've got it. So hang on.
Okay, so yeah. And what I think is interesting about this piece, and what I want you to see, is that she's actually, in her story, highlighting another poet. And that poet sharing their work. Thank God for Ron. Randy.
Got it. Okay, here we go.
I stopped speaking Spanish in middle school. Threw my lunch away when the kids said it smelled funny. I didn't know how to dance salsa, but I also didn't listen to the Caribbean music that my friends were listening to. I'd say it often. I was confused about who I was. Out of frustration, I'd say, I'm a mixed breed. Maybe I said it to irritate my mother. I'd say, I wish I grew up in Peru. You're not a mixed breed, Magda. You're black and you speak Spanish. Then there was silence between us. But I wanted to hear something else. My mother immigrated from Peru to Canada when she was 19. She didn't want to leave, but opportunity was a privilege, her mother told her. The thought of flying for the first time to a mysterious new land alone seems incredulous to me. She says it was no big deal, but every time we fly, she still squeezes my hand. It also seemed like it was no big deal sometime later when she said while I was watching TV, "Look what I found online. I used to listen to this poem when I was a girl. I thought you'd like it."
¿Y qué? Negra, sí, negra soy, negra, negra soy, negra, sí, negra soy, negra soy. Yo y en adelante no quiero laciar mi cabello. No quiero. Y voy a reírme de aquellos que por evitar, según ellos, que por evitarnos algún sinsabor llaman a los negros gente de color. ¿Y de qué color? Negro. ¿Y qué lindo suena sabe, negro. ¿Y qué ritmo tiene? Negro, 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 negro. Al fin comprendí. Al fin, ya no retrocedo. Al fin, ya avanzo segura. Al fin, avanzo y espero. Al fin, y bendigo al cielo porque quiso Dios que negro hasta abajo fuese mi color y ya comprendí. Al fin, ya tengo la llave. Negro, 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 negro.
Me Gritaron Negra by Victoria Santa Cruz. An Afro-Latina, unapologetic about her identity, standing with conviction, wearing her afro like a crown, moving her body to the rhythm of the cajon. I don't really remember what I was thinking then. Just that it was the first time I saw someone like me, heard someone like me, reflected on a screen. And I remember I cried. I understood the word negra, and I heard the sound change. From a curse to a celebration. Me gritaron negra. Me gritaron negra. And so what? Negra sí. Negra soy. Negra sí. Negra soy.
Okay. So something very different. Let's talk about it. Let's give some feedback. And my cat is I'm going to put myself on mute because my cat is like, yo, I want to talk.
I thought the visuals were really sophisticated, like the side by side and the where the poet was isolated and the rest of the action stopped behind her. I mean, really complex, layered.
Yes, very layered. Layered in color too, right? Black and white and color, which can be tricky sometimes,
Yes.
but I think Magda does an amazing job with that. More feedback.
I loved how it starts out with her framed, right? Just this image of this young girl with this hair and the idea that she questioned who she was along with others. And then this bold confidence that takes place. Because when that woman is speaking in her Spanish and the way she's standing with her fro and the movements, all of it spoke to power. I mean, it just power and, acceptance. So there's something really fabulous about that transition. I think it was like a mini coming of age, discovering all of a sudden who you are and owning it all of a sudden. I just love it. I love the idea of the picture with the video.
Yeah, I was
I love
going.
that too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I love the mix of media, like the old pictures, the video, like how she weaved it in and out. I really appreciated that.
I love that too. And I love how it told a story. There's a Spanish word called orgulloso, which is like proud or pride. And if there was like any way to encapture that, I think that would have been it. Just the way that she originally spoke about not wanting to even speak Spanish and not wanting to, I guess, show that side of her. And then to see Victoria Cruz just in her big, bold self. And I had not seen that video before. So that was also very cool how the history behind that. And then how at the end she found that pride within herself. And that was very well done. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and Magda, thank you, Danielle. Magda she crams a lot of information also into this story in a few words. We learn her mother came to Peru when she was, 17, 18 years old. We learn that, and because of that, maybe her mother doesn't like to fly. And but her mother, it wasn't as much of a big deal to her mother but it really bothers her that she had to come to, go to Canada at such a young age. We learn about their relationship, right? Without her ever saying, I'm close to my mom. And we'll talk a little bit about that, around explicit and implicit meaning, and then also around imagery. And she just weaves the imagery in this really provocative way. So yeah, any more feedback? I want to show you these few more before we take our hour-long break. So let's go to the next one. Keep it going. And you can also put comments in the chat. I see Carla's doing that. Feel free to do that as well.
You just want me to play this, or you're setting it up?
Let's skip this one because, let's skip this one only because of time.
Oops.
I would rather, you know what? I would rather go to Ghost Dance and then go to Love Apple. I would rather do that. Yeah, let's show Ghost Dance. Yeah.
Where's it?
It's at the end.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, it won't play that one either.
Okay. I got this one too. So sometimes this happens in Google Slides for some reason, another reason, but I have it. So give me 2 seconds. You can set it up while I do that.
So this is by Tommy Orange, who wrote There, which I know many of you know, and has he started his talking in Maryland yet? Carla, it's coming soon, right? He's speaking in Salisbury's One Book, Maryland. There.
I think it's next week.
Yeah. And he actually worked for Story Center for a while. He was writing there while he was working at Story Center. So this story really highlights how, if you have the time and wherewithal, you can use a lot of archival imagery.
These are some of the first films ever recorded. Thomas Edison chose these. These he thought we should see, but should be captured in motion. There's a beautiful kind of noise to them. Something old, something lost. What you're seeing here is the Ghost Dance. But they're not dancing it. Not really. This was 4 years after the Wounded Knee Massacre, which happened as a result of the Ghost Dance. The dancers here are performing as actors in a practiced Ghost Dance act, having joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. They're performing their Indianness. We keep wanting to see it that way. Indians dressed as Indians, the way we want them to be Indians. Head-dressed, historical, long gone. They don't want to see us here. Now. They want to look away. Look forward, but it all just keeps looking like the past again, backward. I don't know how to be anymore. I know that it matters to look, to see. These coming years might come like a cancer. I wonder what and all that we've captured. I wonder who and what will make it through. What will disappear? And what will we decide to keep?
Okay. So a few responses to that story, very different than what we've watched so far.
I loved his economy of language. The idea that that dance occurred after the massacre and it was staged speaks to how the horrificness of the event, and the idea of history, how we tell it or silence it or erase it.
I thought the quote at the end was pretty powerful too. What will we decide to keep? And like when you see the first videos that were put out, and like what will we decide to take on? Like if people were to look at the history of humans, what will they decide to take from us? Like what will we preserve?
Yeah. And oh, someone else speak?
Yes. I appreciate the tone of the piece, and that someone who has experience, or someone who understands the history of what that group has been through, indigenous people instead of Indians. I'm surprised he didn't, allude to that a little bit. But the tone was confident and resilient. And you would think, like, just as an African American, the anger when you feel like somebody doesn't want you in your own home, or the just the emotion, it was emotionless, which made the piece that more poignant. Because you would expect, like, like in the last piece that we watched, it was like, I'm unapologetically, Afro Latina, and you gonna get this. And I still got the same message from this one. It's like, I'm Indian, I live here, I belong here, I've been here, y'all just don't know. And I'm standing for that. And it was more with the collage of images, spoke to his authority on the subject. So he didn't need to add the emotion, which, in art you can do, but it would have been, to me, I think it would have been overkill, because you wouldn't have been paying attention to the images. And so I really appreciate him being mindful of, maybe, I don't know if he was or not, but mindful of how we would receive. I don't know if I would got all caught up in the emotions too if he came on, I would have just been all, and I wouldn't have really got the message, like, wow, like, what we doing, right? And actually thinking about what I'm going to decide to keep, not necessarily but what am I going to decide to keep in my consciousness about that, because I am going to influence the people in the world as well. So, I can't worry about but I felt that, like, I needed to look at what he was saying for myself and decide how I'm going to tell a story moving forward.
Right. Exactly. We were talking about this before you all came to the workshop. There's something about the quality of his voice in the story that is almost I find very disturbing in a positive way. It's like you can't stop looking. You can't stop listening because his voice is so dispassionate, right? So these are all the things, we're showing you all these different stories because these are all the things for you to think about as you're making your story. And I think he's being true to himself. I watched some interviews of him when he was coming to because I was, he's going to come to Baltimore, and I was thinking about trying to get some of the youth I work with to go see him. And that's the way he talks. That is the way, that is his natural vocal quality. Okay. All right, so we're gonna, let me just do a time check. We're at 7:50. We're gonna kind of speed through, because it's my work. We're gonna speed through these next two stories quickly, but I'm gonna talk a bit about, a little personally, about how digital storytelling has affected me. So during the pandemic, I hated all the theater, all the performance online, and I decided to take a digital story workshop because I was like, well, this is digital media. Maybe this will be, maybe I'll find something creative in this. And I really enjoyed it. And I was working at that time on a 1,500-word essay about my mother. My mother died in January 2019. And I came into my first work, you're supposed to have 300 words when you work on a story, and I came in with 1,500 words, and obviously that was not going to work. And I spent a lot of time, and we'll have a little bit of time for you to get feedback from other people about your ideas. Getting feedback from other people. Ronnie was actually my teacher in that workshop, getting feedback from the instructors, and then really having to sit with what was essential. What is essential to this story? And so I'm going to show the digital story, and then I'm going to show you two pieces of text that I would like you to read. The first piece of text is actually from the essay, and then the second part of it is what you heard in the video, and you'll be able to see the edit that I made. Oh, this would be funny to someplace. The year my mother joined her people, I planted 1,000 tomato seeds for a yard that can only sustain 10 plants. This is the kind of insanity that grief breeds. My mother died in January 2019. By February, my narrow windowsills teemed with exotic names. Azoishka, Constoluto Genovese Silvalente, Drusba. I grew so many black tomatoes, but in my haste to escape my pain, I forgot to plant seeds for my favorite black, Paul Robeson. I watched the seedlings like an expectant mother. Every day waited for their true leaves to fracture the light. I hoped my mother would show up in May when I sat on the rusted chair, played Nina Simone in a haze of Nag Champa, and transplanted the seedlings to their final resting place. In July, I imagined she grew as impatient as I was, waiting for that first ripe tomato. My mother despised mayonnaise and preferred her love apples almost naked. She sliced them open, placed salt on their innards, then swooned. A foodie long before there was such a word, she learned to make spaghetti sauce from an Italian woman she babysat for in Philadelphia during the 50s. In 1969, we became the first black family on the block in a Leavitt suburb, but Maryland never became home to my mom, aka Aunt Sis, Nana, E.T. She wrote a children's story she loved to read me about an African princess named If Me. Had an IQ of 180. My mom left so many dreams unmet, wobbling on the kitchen floor. Until the multiple myeloma came, she loved to brag. No one in our family ever gets cancer. In October, I was still clipping diseased leaves from the plants in a futile attempt to stop the death. But everything that makes the soil sweet comes from decomposition. My mom weighed less than 90 pounds the last time I saw her alive. As her breath waned, the plants outside her hospice window whistled in the cold evening air, like the dead plants I just couldn't bury. My brother thinks I should grow fewer, but I won't. Growing tomatoes is the one place where I can find my mother and not collapse. In my garden, salt tastes like sweat, not sorrow. If I could, I would plant 1,000 acres of love apples. And even that would not be enough to cry her back to me. So now what I would like to do, thank you. Yeah, you know, we're not, I didn't show up for critique or anything, but yeah. You know, and it's funny, this story is the one that everybody likes. You know, it was like, I didn't know how to edit very well then, but I want to now show the two pieces of text. And this is why I wanted to show this story. So I'm going to give you a second to read. This is the excerpt from the essay. So just take a minute or so just to scan that. And you can see that you can read the whole essay. We'll give you these slides. That's where the essay lives. Is everybody good on that? Everybody read that one? Yeah, okay, so we're gonna, and so the process of digital storytelling often requires you really don't want to have more than 300 words. People, they don't have attention spans, and then it becomes about you talking versus the imagery that you want to drive your story. So this is what I condensed that down to, and what you heard, the next slide, what you heard. So from my vantage point, I feel that this writing here conveyed everything that the other writing did, but it's a little tighter. I'm a big fan of list. And really, I wrote the line, my mom left so many dreams wobbling on the kitchen floor. When I had these two pictures of my mother, the one, you know, both of them with the big fro, but the one where she has the fro and she's looking straight at the camera, and then the other where she's looking to the side and we don't see her face. And that's when I thought, oh, let me add that particular line, because I felt that that really went with the image. Any feedback about that? But this is why I really feel that digital storytelling has the ability to help you to actually hone what you write that is going to live on the actual page. Does that make, could you just take it down for one more second, Randy? I just want to be able to see everyone, and if anyone has any questions or thoughts about that.
I got a question.
Sure.
So what we saw was only 300 words being said?
Yes. So I wrote an essay that's about 1,500 words. And that's what I brought into my first workshop. And they were like, it's a little, they were very nice. They were like, it's a little long. I don't think you can make us, because every, you know, just imagine it would have been like 9 minutes long. That's a long digital story. It's like 3 minutes long. And so the process was really trying to distill some more. You know, as writers, we all have those lines we love. You know, those lines we write and we're like, oh, that's beautiful. That's brilliant. That's sacred. That's sacrosanct. No, I cannot edit that away, right? I know we all have those lines. And sometimes they work there, you know, sometimes, you know, we may have had teachers tell us those are precious sometimes. Or they're really great, but they may not work in a digital format. And as you begin to work on your stories, you will feel that. You'll read your story and you may try to push things, shove things in there, and you realize that's really not going to work. And it took me, that was probably my final story, took me a while. I did, because I went back to look for it. I had 5 edits.
That's what I was about to ask. So
I had
how
5 edits.
Feeling it from 1,500, like how do you keep the patience with that process? Like, were you just inspired each time to just kind of like get it, nail it, or what?
Well, I think part of it is, and I'm going to really urge everyone to do this, I really wanted to make this story about my mother. I was passionate about the project. Absolutely, like I needed to make this story about my mother. I immediately knew what I wanted to do, and so I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to serve her right, and so I worked, and then remember too, it was during the pandemic, so time was very different for me. So I could work late, I mean, in a way that I can't do as much now. I could work late into the evenings and early morning and what have you. Okay. So we're going to show one more story of mine, just to share with you. What is there more feedback? Yeah, Danielle.
Yeah, I just had a really quick question. Speaking of passion, like you get really tied to your work. How do you decide which to keep and which to cut?
Oh, wow, that's a deep. I always say, go deep inside yourself. I might give you an exercise that we usually give people to think about. I always say, like, light some candles. Thank you, Carla.
You
Light some
sound like my mom.
candles. Burn that in. I burn a lot of nag champa. Get in that mood and sit with it. There's a bit there, be still and know. I believe I'm paraphrasing a biblical something quote, but there is right? And sit, and if you have competing stories, like, yeah, I want to do this one and I want to do this one, remember, you can do both. You can do both, but to sit and to know and sometimes it's the story, or sometimes it's the piece that you're scared of, or you think nobody wants to hear, or you're like, yeah, that's not good, right? Sometimes that's the story you need to work on. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, Denise, also to me, that one piece, you juxtapose life and death several times in the planting of earth, in the idea of the plants dying versus, seeing the film version of them living and fruitful. And it really kind of forces you to think about what you really want to pay attention to in your story. Because my idea coming into this workshop is very different now from my idea of what maybe I want to do.
Okay.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this more. I particularly like to work with restrictions. So you only see one tomato. And that was just like an artistic choice. Like, I don't really want to see any tomatoes. But I got feedback from somebody who said, but you could work with red. So like my mom has red shoes on. There's a picture where we're both kind of in red by the red fence. So that can evoke, that's an implicit way of evoking tomatoes. So we're going to show this story really quickly, just to give you a sense, because you are all amazing people, and there's all kind of ways you can delve into imagery. Just a little bit about this piece. Let's can you pull up the poem first? Just so, yeah, trick. So I wrote this poem years ago. Maybe 10 years ago, I wrote this poem. It was based on, I'm gonna let everybody read it quickly, but it was really based on it. I was dreaming about somebody I loved. So just read it, except for the last line. And during the pandemic, so this is it's a poem about being alone, lonely, nobody loving you, et cetera, et cetera. And but during the pandemic, I kept hearing, during lockdown, and I was one of those people who was by themselves. Like I had very little human interaction. I literally talked to a friend of mine every day. We would talk like 1 or 2 o'clock, and that was really, and she lives in Baltimore, and that was our human contact. And we've become like really good friends now because we talked every day, but I was alone. And I kept hearing this phrase, I was alone before the pandemic, but what am I now? What is this? It was a level of isolation that I had, you know, that none of us had experienced before. So this is the story I made. I mean, it's funny. I didn't think I had made any pandemic art, but this is my one piece of pandemic art. Last night, I dreamed about someone I used to think I loved. Oats fell on the floor. We picked them up. One by one, we hoisted their silvery bellies into the air. The floor was linoleum, cold. We never kissed. Perhaps the dream was about dusting things off, really taking stock of what scatters. I fell back asleep. When I woke, I cried for all the lives we banished to a metaphor, raw and naked, naked and raw. That's the only wordplay I can scrape from the surface. I sleep alone and eat alone and dream alone each night, every night. This is not a poem, just some survival tactic killing me. I was alone before the pandemic. What am I now? So, I mean, I shared this one because I use essentially 2 photographs that and we'll, you know, hopefully we'll be able to show you how to do this, that I layered over top of each other in a variety of ways. And then some video that I took in front of a flashlight. So there's lots of ways that you can approach your work. You've seen what, 6 very, very different pieces. And I hope that it has sparked some ideas and thoughts. We are going to take, I'm not going to make it 10 because we're at 8:09. We're going to take an 8-minute break. Okay, but it's a working break. Okay, where I want you to think about what you want to create. Okay, I mean, if anything has come to mind, I want you to jot it down a little bit too, right? Take a few notes, jot it down for your memory if something has come to mind about what you want to create now. And then when we come back, we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about technology and next steps. Okay, so we should come back at 8:18. Everybody good with that? Can I get a hand thumbs up? Okay, great. Excellent. All right, we'll see you at 8:18.